Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Fire Up Florida. My name is Scott Morgan. We're out the Motor City Mad Mouth. Pleased to be joined by his co-host, Rod Peterson. Welcome to the big show, Rod.
Hey, nice to be here. Nice to be anywhere. How's it going, Madmouth?
Oh, we're doing all right. I'm like a Timex, you know what I mean? But, they take a licking and keep on ticking. I take a licking and keep on talking, and I haven't had much caffeine today. So for all you people that buy Timexes, now you get the comparison. Well, we got a great show lined up. Rod obviously covered the Panthers over. We're going to get to that in a moment. We're going to talk about some history that was made in Seattle the other day. And that history being Jessica Campbell is the NHL's first female assistant coach in Seattle, in the Seattle Kraken season opener, alongside Dan Bilesma, her boss. So, Rod, my question to you is, will there be any more women that actually get behind the bench in the future?
Well, I guess that may depend on what kind of job Jessica does with the Seattle Kraken. The Panthers, we had it in the South Florida Tribune. The Panthers had a female coach through their summer development camp and training camp by the name of Christine Bumstead. So Jessica was the first one and only one on a bench. I'd like to say she hails from Rocanville, Saskatchewan, which is my home province. I don't know Jessica, but I'm not shocked that a Saskatchewan female would be the trailblazer in this. Right. But I don't know. I'll be honest. How controversial you want to get tonight, Scott?
You know me, I don't dodge controversy.
I know. I'm just saying there's some male coaches that have blown up my phone saying it's unfair and that she didn't earn her spot on the bench in the National Hockey League. And I just listen, I raised 3 daughters. I just shut that discussion down. But it's just I was a little surprised.
Fair enough. I guess the one advantage, she had working with her, though, Rod, is working alongside of Dan Bilesma, so he knows what she could do. So I'll give her that much. But, we'll see how it plays out. I'm going to go back to your original point. If she does well, obviously, with Bilesma, it does open up opportunities without a doubt. And then we'll see where it goes. We'll put, in broadcasting terms, Rod, we'll call it TBD, to be determined, unless there's something else you want to add to it.
Well, no, just that I think you make a good point. Bilesma and her were together in the American Hockey League with the Kraken's minor league team in Coachella Valley in Palm Springs. So they do know each other. And I don't think it was a political move. But, I mean, there are people that say, what can a woman tell an NHL player? They haven't played in the NHL. Blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what? I interviewed Iron Mike Keenan this week. He never played in the NHL either. Like, that's not the be-all and the end-all. And there's all different kinds of coaches. There's video coaches, skill coaches, nutrition coaches. So, yeah, I'm hoping for the best for her and the Kraken, and I just applaud her, which clearly you do too.
Very good. All right, well, we'll talk about opening night. You were there, dapper as you are. There's no way you're going to get me there in a shirt and tie. Although I have to tell you, though, on Monday night, I did wear a shirt and I wore a tie, but it wasn't as dapper as yours. But I had a thinking man's tie on to prove a couple of my guys wrong on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk that the Mets would end up beating the Brewers, and they ate crow. So, but I liked your outfit better. If you ever think you're going to get me to wear a tie, you got 2 chances. Either one, you get me a clip-on tie, or 2, you better pre-tie it if you want it to look good. Okay, yeah. Because otherwise I just keep doing it. But back to opening night on Tuesday. The Panthers defeat the Boston Bruins 6-4, but they led 4-1 after the first period. So, Rod, as much of the celebratory note as there was, do you think that the Panthers have the mindset to move forward to defend that Stanley Cup? Because when you win the Stanley Cup, obviously everybody's having a good time with it this summer. They're taking it from Iceland all the way to Jamaica, all the way to wherever they want. And it's good to have that moment that you can enjoy for an entire summer. But now, instead of, they're the one being hunted, okay, instead of go hunt. What kind of a mentality do you have with this Panthers team that they're putting it behind it? It's time to do it again.
Well, it's funny. By the way, I know better than to even ask you to put on a shirt and tie. I know at some point I will see you in it, but I wouldn't ask you to do that. I'm not dumb. 2, there was a lot of talk and conjecture going into Tuesday's game around the arena with my friends, Panther fans, and the media going, oh, how are they going to come out in game 1? Are they going to have a figurative hangover, the Stanley Cup hangover? We've all heard of it, right? The ring ceremony was Monday night. Are they going to be lethargic from that? None of that happened. So over the past couple of years, this is a team, Scott, that's had a lot of success. Won a President's Trophy, fired Andrew Brunette. brought in Paul Maurice. He had to institute an entirely new system. They go all the way to the Stanley Cup final and lose. And then they have that motivation all year to get back and win, which they did. So this is now a different motivation. It's really a largely different group. We talked about the 9 new players from last year's team. So listen, I think they would have been forgiven if they'd lost to the Boston Bruins the other night. But as you pointed out, they had a 4-1 lead in the first period, extended it to 5-1 in the second. They skated circles around the Boston Bruins the other night. And I'm sitting there watching in the press box shortly after getting, look at this, Scott, this Stanley Cup banner over my shoulder that was given to me by the Panthers, adorning my set. I'm going, they've picked up where they've left off.
Yeah.
This ain't even close. So where do we go from here? It's going to be tough for Paul Maurice. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, as they say. But I think they're up to it.
Rod, you're giving my eyesight more credit than it really deserves, because you're asking me to look at that, and I'm here. But I'll tell you what, when I sit in that studio with you, I'll be able to do a much better job with my vision to see that, okay? Unless you pull it off and you put it on the camera, which you did, now I can see it, okay? Remember, I have not very good vision. I love these glasses, though, I have to tell you. But now I know that they are Stanley Cup champions, and I can see it. But when I'm in that studio on the Rod Peterson show, it'll be a lot easier to put my eyes on it. But thank you very much for putting it up and drawing my attention towards it. Okay, well, you know what, Rod, we have to say that it is a good night for Carter Verhaeghe. After all he did was get an 8-year extension that's worth $56 million. What him and, as I understand it, you tell me, was it Bill Zito that pulled him aside? We have a little bit more work to do, and all of a sudden, boom, he's got 56 million jingles in his pocket.
You know, it's interesting you say that. We were in the assembled media room after the game, interviewed the players, interviewed Paul Maurice, and we're ready to go home. It was getting to be a late night, and the PR staff of the Panthers said, "Just hang on. We have one more surprise for you guys." And I was like, "Oh, are you going to give us more gifts?" And they're like, "Have your camera out, get ready." And Bill Zito and Carter Verhaeghe slipped into the room. And Bill said, "We're announcing tonight an 8-year extension with Carter Verhaeghe." And to be honest, just before I came over here, I was watching the Panthers-Senators game on television, and they had up on the screen all the long-term deals. Barkov, Tkachuk, Verhaeghe, Sam Reinhart, all locked up for 6, 7, 8 years. My point on this is, I don't know any of them real well, but from what I know of Carter Verhaeghe being around here the last couple of years, he's a quality person. And that's why I think Bill Zito wanted to lock him up. He's the kind of guy, obviously, that you win with. They did last year. His 34 goals were second most on the team. Scott, they don't want to let the good people get away. That's my takeaway on that signing.
But you know what, Rod? All good general managers have that mentality. I dealt with one in Detroit named Ken Holland, okay? And Ken Holland was one of those things, albeit he traded a lot of the farm guys to try to win now. That's why they got their 25 years in a row. I still think that's something to be proud of, even if you're out of the playoffs a little while. But you're right. I mean, the Panthers are playing it smart. You have to lock up your core players. And, Rod, you have to lock them up for a while. The one thing about the NHL, though, albeit they're probably going to get between 8 and 10 million for that long, whereas you go to baseball and basketball, the numbers are way higher than that. But nevertheless, the NHL is on a different budget than these other sports, and I give them a boatload of credit for doing it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you something. This is my 4th season covering the Panthers, but I haven't been that close to them, personally, physically that close to them. And standing in that room, you could just feel the gratitude coming off Carter Verhaeghe. You know what? Right. Maybe it ain't 25 million a year, Scott, but it's 7 million a year in Florida. I could tell he was a very happy guy. You know, and you talk about the job that Paul Maurice is going to have to do this year, or how well the Panthers would do. I think this team is going to be good for a long time.
When you lock up those guys, it does. But you know what we're going to do, Rod? We're going to take a station break. Bring Candy Ebling in here. Go ahead, Candy.
Let's do it.
You are listening to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. If you see that red subscribe button, hit it, like us, share us with all your friends and family. Monday nights, we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday nights, you never know what we're going to be talking about. Thursday nights, right here, we talk NHL. We talk hockey, specifically Florida hockey. And then we also talk on Fire Up at 9 o'clock. You never know what we're going to be talking about, so you definitely want to tune in later. The South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book last November called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by your host, Scott, the Motor City Mad Mouth Morganroth. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. Get your copy today. It talks about the media and how media has changed over Scott's 40 plus years in the business. You also, if you listen to podcasts, you can get us wherever you get your podcasts. We do have a website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a link to Scott's book. There is a link to our merchandise store where you can get hats, sweatshirts, t-shirts, you name it. But you can also read the writings of these two fine gentlemen. They both write for us. So go check it out, www.southfloridatribune.com. Back to the program.
Thank you very much, Candy. And for those of you that haven't seen Fire Up before on Thursday night, Candy runs it like a country club. Let me tell you something, Rod. It is pretty good. We have Smoking Jeremy Ballrick on there and Ralph Williams, and I appear on Ralph's show pretty much every Saturday. I won't be on there this week, Saturday, because I have another commitment towards public speaking that I have to go, like a seminar of sorts. So I'll be going there. You know what my position on public speaking and what 25 lies ahead. Those are announcements that we'll obviously be making as time goes on. So, but that's a good show. And she has her crew, Rod, on Thursday nights, and we lead into that show. And this show is perfectly placed here, obviously, on Thursday. I love doing this show on Thursday night because it gets everybody ready for the weekend, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a beautiful thing. So, it's interesting. But no, the Florida Panthers do an incredible job locking up their core players. Matthew Tkachuk, I imagine they've got him signed for quite a while too, don't they?
Signed him very shortly after he got here in the trade with the Calgary Flames. I think he's probably another 7 seasons under contract. So all these guys, get used to these names, man. This is what you want. They're not like the Marlins, which I know you follow a lot more closely than me, but just a rotating stable of names that nobody knows who they are. These Panthers are, if they're not household names already, which I kind of think they are, they're going to be even more so.
Don't get me started with the Marlins. Seriously?
Sorry.
Really?
Sorry.
No, but you got those 2 words out there. That's okay. No big deal. But you know what? Since you will do a Cast and Bowls podcast, we do have to go to Tampa. But obviously, what choice do we have when you consider the events that have transpired over the past week? So this is one of those times where I do have to get a little bit seriously, and I'm going to do exactly that. All right, can't have a show without acknowledging that the Tampa Bay Lightning had to cancel their home opener versus the Carolina Hurricanes, which was originally scheduled for Saturday night, but it was postponed due to Hurricane Milton. I have a feeling that number is going to get, not number, but that name will get retired. Their next scheduled home game is Tuesday against Vancouver Canucks. This hurricane actually shredded Tropicana Field's roof. Now, one of my best moments with you, Rod, on this show was when you didn't know that Tim Tebow had a team out in Lake Tahoe. Now, I don't know if I could go pull another fast one on you, but I'm going to try, and maybe you're smart enough to not do it. But the Lightning, like I told you, they also had to cancel their October 7th preseason game against Nashville so that they could bolt, pun intended, by the way, on that Tuesday to prepare for their Friday night opener. But did you know, that Tropicana Field was once named the Thunderdome, and they played there from 1993 to 1996.
I only knew that because I'm a hockey guy, and I knew that was their original arena when they showed up. So sorry to be a spoiler.
Actually, no, it wasn't.
Okay.
I've got you on this one, but at least you knew that. So 1 out of 2 now. The original arena that they had with Phil Esposito was actually the Expo Center on the State Fairgrounds, and then they moved to the Thunderdome.
Wow.
Did you know that?
No.
I got him.
Congratulations.
I expect to get in your column next week, brother. But so let's talk about the situation, that the Lightning are in. It's a tough situation anyways. It's one thing to have a lot of roster turnover, right? But it's another to have to deal with this ordeal of a hurricane. And this area has been affected a lot by it in the last few weeks. So the floor is yours.
I was a little stunned when I started doing a little digging into what the Lightning were up to this week. It's been kind of a disastrous end of September, start of October for the Lightning. Yeah, they had a lot of question marks around them with the Steven Stamkos departure and all the rest. And on our Cats and Bolts podcast, it comes up every week. Lightning fans are still mad that Stamkos is gone. That aside, you saw the Lightning left town either Monday or Tuesday to go up to North Carolina, but they've been there all week, getting ready to open the season Friday night at the Hurricanes. And then earlier today, they announced the Saturday home opener was canceled. Julian Breezeball, the general manager, telling the media this week, this is not ideal. And I don't know how you feel about this. I mean, you could get Carolina in here, Scott, at some other date, but teams do not want to reschedule games. It's the last thing they want to do. And this is not to sound heartless, because I understand people lost lives with Hurricane Milton. I was just reading about that before we came on the air. But it's stressful for everybody. It's stressful for the players. It's stressful for their families, not knowing where you're going to be. At least the storm's made its way through and gone. But this is just not something anybody needed to deal with.
Yeah, but we've been dealing with these disasters for a long, long time, Rod. We really have. And I agree. Nobody wants to reschedule them. But at what point do you have to really feel like you have to do what you have to do for the individuals? I can remember when, now I'm getting out of sports. So if you don't know these answers, nobody's holding this stuff against you. When the Buffalo Bills had to move some of their games, I think, to Detroit because of blizzards and all that stuff. They had to do that a couple of times. But what are you going to do? You can't put the fans in danger or anybody. It's just one of those things that you just simply have to do what you have to do. And the problem we've had in the Tampa Bay area, though, Rod, is we've seen a couple major storms in the past 2 weeks. It's bad enough, okay, that they're digging out of Hurricane Helene, right? Right. Yeah, Helene. And guess what? Milton comes along. And if that's not good enough, why don't we rip the top of a stadium apart? And we already know that the Tampa Bay Rays are getting another one. But, boy, this will accelerate it a little bit, knowing that roof actually only holds up to 115 miles of winds. And I think, as I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, okay, that I think the first responders were supposed to be there, but they ended up moving them to, I believe, Ocala, because they kept good track of the weather is what they were doing. And I think they made the right decision. So, with all due respect, the Lightning are going to be in for a bit of a transitional year, knowing that Steve Stamkos is gone. And many people thought they should have kept him. What are your thoughts right now about what you can expect to see with the Lightning, especially early on with John Cooper? Because, again, Rod, you do that Cats and Bolt podcast. I imagine some of your time is obviously based on talking about those guys.
And I write about it in the South Florida Tribune. As you know,
right.
Weekly, we try to cover the Lightning as much as possible. And they've made the playoffs every year, Scott, since 2017. The difference is they had Steven Stamkos in their lineup every year since 2017 until now. So they were here last week. They played the Panthers in a back-to-back home-and-home set. I watched them here at American Bank Arena. They worked their tails off. Okay. That's what the Tampa Bay Lightning are known for. Right. And it was the names of Ryan McDonough and Victor Hedman and some of the newcomers like Jake Gensel. They worked very hard. Andre Vasilevsky was not in goal here, but he played the game in Tampa and only allowed 2 goals. So this is the question. I've been on all these preview shows around North America the last couple of weeks. Everybody in that division has Toronto, Boston, Florida. 1, 2, 3. Throw them in the air, where they land, where they finish. Tampa is no longer a lock to be in that upper echelon.
Really?
And I've got them picked to miss the playoffs this year. It's not going over well with Lightning fans. I'm a Stamkos fan, and I think this is the start of the slide for them by letting him go. From what I understand, people have been sending me messages that there's something there between Stamkos and management of the Lightning, and I'm like, I don't want to know. I don't want to get into it. I'm just going by what I see. It was an ugly departure, and the teams don't usually fare better after those. We could go through that, but we're not going to. It's your show. But you know what I mean. When there's a franchise vet, a franchise icon shown the door, the team doesn't usually stay the same or get better. I feel they usually go down.
Well, you could probably equal that to like a bitter divorce. So
yes,
we can call it. I think that's how I would describe it myself. Now, let's go back to Tuesday night. Okay. What were some of the biggest takeaways that you had, Rod, about what you saw with the Florida Panthers in Act 1? You said that they're playing the Ottawa Senators, right?
Tonight.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so give me some of your major takeaways from that game.
Well, like I said, they picked up where they left off from when they won the Stanley Cup. That was the last time the fans saw them, was Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. It was historic. They called it, Scott, one of the greatest nights in Panthers history here Tuesday night, to see the banner get raised at American Bank Arena. It'll stand there till the end of time for however long they're in that arena.
Right.
I think it'll be a long time. So it was nice to be in the building for that. On the flip side, I don't know how much you're following this because you got your mind on a lot of different things. But the Boston Bruins did not start their number one goaltender Tuesday night. There was this big training camp holdout and brouhaha with their number one guy, Jeremy Swayman. And
Right.
it got ugly. You know, when these things go to arbitration and nasty things are said by the team towards the player. Similar thing happened here with Swayman. And he went to the media, said he was upset by the things that were said to him. On Sunday, they got the deal done. 8 years, $66 million. And then he doesn't play here Tuesday night in the season opener. And the Bruins, to this point, have never announced why they didn't play him. So his backup, Eunice Korpisalo, went in net and just got lit up like a Christmas tree by the Panthers. And tonight, Swayman's playing. Boston's home to Montreal. So you're asking what my takeaways were? I kind of gave you a lot of the Panthers ones. On the Boston side, how do you not play your number one goalie when you just give him an 8-year, $66 million contract in the season opener? Nobody's explained that to me. And I've been listening to NHL radio. A lot of the pundits are the same as me. How do you not do that? But that was one of my big takeaways.
Well, that's fine. And actually, you know what, Rod? I did a little bit of homework before we came on here, and I knew that they had Korpisalo in behind the pipes on Tuesday night. And I suspect that they probably didn't do it because, number one, they let the guy regroup a little bit here and then get him ready. Remember, the one thing about the National Hockey League, again, this is nothing more than just an opinion, and take it for what it is, just an opinion, albeit I've been around the league a long time, too, growing up with the likes of Gordie Howe, being an original six market like you've been in Canada. You go through an ugly contract situation, and you really do. And here's what you do. All right, let him catch his breath one day. We'll stick him in. An 82-game season in the NHL is absolutely brutal. Forget about those stupid preseason games that don't mean nothing to me. It is. I mean, when I say brutal, these guys get beat up, man. They get their heads slammed into glass, and they get knocked on their backsides and all that. You know, I love baseball. I think baseball is the ultimate chess game anyways. So hockey players and baseball players are different. While one's got a lot between their pipes here because of chest, the other one's getting their chest beat out of them, even with helmets. So, you know, I know that we can read into a lot of that. But, you know, I think now that Swayman has a contract, they're not going to have to worry about it for at least 8 years, right? Isn't that what you said the contract was worth anyways? Nah, he's back in game 2. It's a long season anyway. So, and let's face it, I think quietly, and I repeat, Rod, quietly, the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins are starting to develop a interesting rivalry because these two teams have faced each other the last couple of years in the playoffs. So this is a rivalry. And it doesn't help matters or hurt matters that you got the Miami Dolphins and the New England Patriots anyways. So why don't we add the hockey twist to it? And if that isn't good enough, why don't you add the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics? And you got a 3-ring circus of South Florida versus New England.
Yeah, they've had some real wars, the Heat and the Celtics, you know, Eastern Final, well, not last year, but before that. Well, I'll tell you, just one last thing on the Bruins and the goalie. Yeah, you're right. I don't want to belabor it. There's a lot of people saying exactly what you're saying. It's one of 82 games. It's not that important. That's fine. Right. I've heard that a lot this week.
Have you?
Saying, but I heard, you're not dumb, Scott. I can appreciate your perspective. I don't necessarily agree with it. Bruce Boudreau this morning on NHL radio, I was so happy to hear him say, I don't get it. You give him all the money. How do you not play your number one guy in the first game? It's just, it's the season opener, Scott. It's special. It's not one of 82 games. But anyways, what I'm also really happy with is now this is my 4th season covering the Panthers, and the exact same things happen. The things happen that I wanted to. Okay. Fans are writing me on game day, saying, what do you think's going to happen tonight? What's the over-under on penalty minutes? Baba, who's going to go after who? And I enjoy that. Maybe down the line, 10, 15, 20 years from now, I'm going to be telling fans, leave me alone. But for right now, because that's what happened with my last job, I got tired of going back and forth with fans. It was too much. But right now, I was hoping to have that imprint in the marketplace, and that's happened. I enjoy chatting with Panthers fans. And so the point was, they were somewhere asking me, how rough is it going to get? I'm like, not that rough. Right. Now, there was scrums after almost every whistle. There was a lot of penalties. And to be honest, I was talking about that with Serena, my beautiful wife and co-host.
Mm-hmm.
She said not only are the Bruins the number one rival of the Panthers, they might be the really only one. They don't have a burning rivalry with the Tampa Bay Lightning. For whatever reason, they don't.
Well, I mean, I've seen the Lightning and the Panthers play, and it doesn't take long for a scrap to get started. But you're right. I remember even during COVID-19, when the divisions were reduced to what they were, these teams were playing each other 8 times a year. But and the ugliness is what the ugliness, and that's the best thing about hockey. But yeah, Serena's on point with Boston because let me tell you, Rod, rivalries I think are really created in the playoffs more so, and then they carry into the regular season. I'll give you a couple of other examples. Got another 5 minutes or so left in the broadcast, but I remember when the Detroit Pistons and Boston Celtics got ugly in the playoffs. Tell me a bigger rivalry there. And I'm not going to go into the Boston Celtics and LA Lakers because they only play each other twice a year. Then in the finals, only if you have Magic and Bird. But when you have ugliness within the conference, that's what and then you face each other in the playoffs and it gets crazy. That's what you have there. So, but that's good. That's what makes sports healthy. Rivalries are rivalries, and that's what makes the sports game healthy. Covered a lot of ground tonight, Rod. Glad that you get going to Panthers games. I'm looking forward to ultimately getting there. And you are right. I do have a lot of things going on right now as I try to go ahead and build this network with a lot of moving parts. But one of the biggest additions that I have right now is a man sitting across the camera with me, and that's you, by the way. So I have a lot, as Uncle Sam would always say in the Army, I want you, but we got to do all the crazy stuff to get there. And I know you're a Canadian, so you know who Uncle Sam is. Well, we all do when it comes to April 15th, Income Tax Day. I don't know. Where am I going? I don't know. Have a good time.
You're doing a great job. You've got me ensconced, mesmerized, just watching you talk. Yeah, appreciate it. So we're doing the show tonight. The Panthers are on a road trip, and they will be back next Thursday night against the Vancouver Canucks. So maybe I'll be hosting my half of this fine program, Fire Up Florida, from American Bank Arena next Thursday night. I'm not sure. You do whatever
you want, Rod. All we got to do is just make arrangements ahead of time. Yeah, let the Panthers people know I've forgotten about them. I'm going ballistically crazy, but I haven't forgotten them. And let them also know when you're out there that there's a chance we could be doing some shows with Candy doing a lot of the work, here over at our studio. We'll do that. We'll plant those seeds. But yeah, if you're there next week, that'll make it even more interesting. But meanwhile, folks, this is Fire Up Florida. My name is Scott Morgan, Motor City Manmouth. Please be joined by my co-host, Rod Peterson. We do this every Thursday night around 7:30. So if you haven't had a chance to come in the chat room, watch it. You can always find it on our YouTube channel. Go ahead and feel free to subscribe, folks, because all it's going to do is get you programming for all the different shows that we have. With that said, I'm going to let Candy go ahead and give us one more station break. You can let everybody know how to get a hold of yourself. And you know what? I'm looking forward to, if I feel a little bit better, to get out your neck of the woods next week, God willing. And you know what? We're going to do this again next Thursday. I'm having a lot of fun doing this, Rod, and I couldn't have a better co-host than you to do it. Okay. Go ahead, Katie.
You were listening to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. If you see that red subscribe button, hit it, like us, share us. We published a book last November called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. Talks about Scott's 40 plus years in the media business and how it has changed. A very interesting read. Lots of stories. Go get your copy today. Apple, Google, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Kindle. There's a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. There is on our website, there is also a link to our merchandising page. And there is stories that these two fine gentlemen have written. So go check it out. Go check out. I've got some pictures up there as well. There's a plethora of all kinds of great information. Go check out our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. Monday nights, we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesdays and Thursday nights, you never know what we're going to be talking about. Except on this show, we always talk hockey. Also, Scott does a show on nofilter.net on Wednesday nights. Go check that out as well. Scott, if anybody wants to advertise or sponsor any one of these shows, call Scott, 954-304-4941. If you missed any of what I just said, it's been scrolling around the bottom. or you can just hit the rewind button and listen to it all over again. Thanks, everyone.
And like I said, Fire Up follows the show tonight around 9 Eastern Time. Motor City Mad Mouse show is on Wednesdays. That leads into the Sports Exchange. But meanwhile, Rod, like I said, you do an unbelievable job. I enjoy reading your articles. They're really fantastic. And I'm impressed with the fans that you have on social media. And that's why, as we continue to build our brand here over on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network, mark my word, there's a lot of good things when you have a guy that knows what you're pretty much capable of doing or learning. There's a quick learner like you are anyways. But at any rate, I want you right now, Rod, let everybody know how they get a hold of you, what they're going to watch. You got the Rod Peterson show, got Cats and Bolts. I said it, but you're going to give more details.
Just simply, you can find it all, go the name on the screen there, Rod Peterson. Give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, at Rod Peterson. You can find it all. We're live daily, noon to 2 on the Game Plus television network. It also airs on WQEE Radio in Atlanta. And our weekly Panthers and Lightning podcast is Cats and Bolts. You can find it Apple Podcast, Spotify. Thank you, Scott. Always fun chatting hockey and sports with you two.
Oh, come on, Rod. It's a no-brainer, man. It's always a blast talking to you. Remember, people, I was born in Original 6 down in Detroit. Hockey was what I was born and raised with. And now that I'm down here with a Canadian like you and a guy that lived across the Canadian border, Detroit/Windsor, you get the drift. It's only a tunnel or a bridge away. It's always a no-brainer, but you get to do this every Thursday night. And also, at some point when baseball lets up, we'll probably be doing a hockey show once or twice a month. I'm going to try to get Rod involved once in a while so we can help him build his brand on not one but two shows. But this is the show you see us on Thursday night. Meanwhile, on behalf of Rod Peterson, my name is Scott Morgan of the Motor City Mad Mouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Fire Up Florida. Fire Up is night with Candy Epling, Jeremy Ballrick, and Ralph Williams. Good night, everybody. We will see you next Thursday. Good night, everybody.